What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another brand new installment of For the Love of Wrestling. I, of course, am your host, the Renegade of Wrestling, JJ Williams. Happy Tuesday here across the Casa D18 Studios channel. Got a lot of stuff to get into today. As you probably noticed, there was no show yesterday. Both yesterday and next Monday, there will be no show. Gonna get all caught up on Tuesday. Kids are out of school, so taking that opportunity to have time with them and whatnot. So we've got Smackdown, Rampage, Collision, and Raw to dive into today. Buckle in. It's going to be a long ride. Let's get down to business. SmackDown kicked off with a recap of the WrestleMania press conference, and then we begin the show with Adam Pearce, Nick Aldis, and Triple H in the ring. Triple H says that the road to WrestleMania is on fire, but he needs to clear a few things up because some people don't seem to know their role. Triple H says that it doesn't matter where you sit, there's only one person in charge, and it's him. He confirms that it'll be Cody versus Roman, and it doesn't really matter if you don't like it. Nick Aldis then goes on and says that Seth Rollins will defend his championship against the winner of the men's elimination chamber match. Adam Pearce then introduces the 12 men that'll compete for that opportunity for the spot in the chamber. And they are AJ Styles, Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton, Bronson Reed, Kevin Owens, Logan Paul, The Miz, Lashley, LA Knight, Sami Zayn, Dominic Mysterio. I feel like I missed somebody here, but it's irrelevant at the end of the day. We then get AJ Styles versus Drew McIntyre as the first match of the night, and before the match can begin, LA Knight comes out and joins commentary. This was a great match to open up the show with. Both men really laid it all out on the line, got physical. LA Knight distracted AJ Styles, allowing Drew to hit the Claymore kick for the win. Drew McIntyre advances into the chamber match. We then had a Sami Zayn interview, and he's up in the bleachers. He's up in the stands before the show, talking about being in the main event of WrestleMania just last year and how his window of opportunity to be part of the show at all is beginning to close for this year. We then had a pretty deadly vignette talking about what Pete Dunne did to Kip Wilson. Very funny stuff here from Pretty Deadly. If you guys aren't fans of them yet, what's going on? These guys are hilarious and they're great in the ring. You guys definitely got to pay attention to Pretty Deadly. I see great things for them in the future. This then led to Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate encountering DIY backstage, and the two of them have a little bit of a face-off. We then get a recap of the self-destruction of Damage Control and Bayley's arrival at the arena. For the women's chamber, we then had Bianca Belair versus Mia Yim, and this was just a phenomenal match as both women looked to qualify for a spot in the chamber. Mia Yim really brought the fight here to Bianca, but at the end of the day, KOD got the EST, the victory. You know, it's sad, but it was a little bit predictable because when was the last time Mia Yim won a match? Go ahead. I'll wait. I love Bianca Belair. I wanted her to win. I wanted her to go in the chamber. But I would rather have had Mia Yim face off against somebody that, little bit more of a shot of her getting in with. We then had a backstage segment with Triple H and Braun Breaker, and Braun Breaker wants to try to pick Triple H's brain on the two offers he's received for Raw and SmackDown. But before Triple H can give some guidance to the young man, Paul Heyman comes in. Triple H seems very uninterested in what the wise man has to say. He's just like, "What do you want, Paul?" And Paul's like, okay. I see that you're not. I'll be back next week. And when I come back next week, I will bring my tribal chief with me and The Rock. So this week on SmackDown, we will have Roman Reigns and The Rock live on the road to WrestleMania. Should be an amazing show. Ratings always go up when Roman Reigns is there. The Rock being there is just the icing on the cake. It'll be the first time we really get to hear from The Rock since the press conference, and we'll see how much he's going to lean into the heel persona. We then had a Bayley promo, and during the promo, Dakota Kai comes out. And Dakota Kai tries to convince Bayley that she's still on her side. And Bayley's like, "Well, then where were you last week when I was getting beat down?" And Dakota Kai points out that, I'm very close to getting cleared to be able to come back for action. I had a doctor's appointment. I was getting checked out. Io Sky, Asuka, and Kairi Sane then come out to the ring. And Dakota kind of slides out the ring almost like a snake here, leaving Bayley high and dry. And as the women begin to, circle in around Bayley on the outside of the ring, Dakota comes in with a chair. And at first it looks like she's going to crack Bayley, but instead she ends up defending Bayley and fending off the other three women. So at least for now, we are still led to believe that Dakota Kai is with Bayley. From a personal standpoint, I think it's a setup, but we'll see what happens as time progresses. I still think Dakota Kai is with the other three women. I think that she will be. I think she'll be a great mouthpiece for them so that they don't have to cut promos and instead Dakota Kai can cut the promos. But I'm okay with this for right now because gotta build up the story. The eventual turn, I feel, will happen at WrestleMania. We then get a Randy Orton promo at this point, and if I'm being honest, I didn't catch everything that he said. It was probably Elimination Chamber based, hyping up his match for that. I believe he's going to have Sammy in the main event, so it was probably something along those lines. We then had Lashley, the Street Profits, and B-Fab cutting a promo, and Lashley is going to take on Bronson Reed on Raw to see who advances in the Elimination Chamber match. We then had Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate versus DIY, and this was a hell of a tag team match by all four men. Not going to lie, I was worried here that DIY was going to get the victory, but I was so happy that they went the other way. So happy they gave the victory to Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate. Otherwise, I feel like the entire turn from Butch to Pete Dunne would have been for nothing. Pete Dunne landed the bitter end onto Johnny Gargano, getting the victory. Again, great matchup here. Then had a Dominic Mysterio interview, and he talks about how he's going to win the Elimination Chamber and then defeats Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. He and Mommy will have matching titles, and KO comes in and is going to be the qualifying opponent for Dominic Mysterio next week. Truth comes in at this point and he calls Kevin Owens the Miz and tells him to watch out for Nick because he's supposed to be on Raw. You know, what are you doing on SmackDown? And KO's like, who, Nick Mysterio? And he's like, no, Nick Aldis. Very funny segment here between Truth and KO, allowing KO to lean more into his comedy, which he hasn't really done lately. Highly entertaining segment. We then had Sammy and Randy getting ready for the match, which is next, the main event. We then had Logan Paul backstage with Nick Aldis, and he's upset because he was supposed to be finding out who his next challenger is going to be for the United States title. And here he's in a match for free on television, not a pay-per-view PLE match. He's not defending his title, but it's like you get a shot to qualify for the chamber. Finds out that his opposition will be The Miz coming up to qualify. That's going to be this coming week also on SmackDown. So a couple of good matches there in addition to the Rock and Roman. KO versus Dom, Miz and Logan Paul. Main event was Sammy versus Orton. I don't think I need to tell you what happens here. Painfully obvious. Randy Orton gets the victory over Sami Zayn. All in all, a really good SmackDown. Not as good as it could have been, if I'm being honest, but I'd say better than average. I'd probably give SmackDown about an 8 out of 10. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comments. We are going to take a moment. We are going to run a quick trailer. And then when we come back, we will get into Rampage. Stay tuned.
And now, preview time. So let's take a look at what's coming your way.
And we are back. So we're going to roll into Rampage now. And Rampage kicked off with Orange Cassidy, Rocky Romero, and Trent Beretta versus Roderick Strong, Mike Bennett, Matt Taven of the Undisputed Kingdom. Tremendous trios action here to kick the show off. Fast-paced, hard-hitting as the Undisputed Kingdom looked to dish some punishment out to Orange Cassidy, trying to soften him up for his match against Roderick Strong at Revolution, I believe it's going to be. Undisputed Kingdom succeed and get the victory here. So definitely trying to push the narrative here that Roddy can beat Orange Cassidy. I know a lot of people are kind of disappointed in the fact that Orange Cassidy is still champion. I definitely get the distinct feeling that he will be losing it here at Revolution to Roderick Strong. Time and patience, everybody. We then had Mondo Rocks and Robbie Litt versus the Young Bucks. Squash match. Nothing to discuss here. The Bucks took them to Dick Kick City, then hit the BTE trigger. I refuse to call it the EVP trigger. You can kiss my ass. Got the victory here. Post-match, the Bucks cut one of the worst promos I have ever seen in my life. Crying about a heckler calling them Nick and Matt instead of Nicholas and Matthew. So they're going to climb the ladder to contention and not politic their way to a title shot. Y'all have already said you're getting a title shot against Steen and Darby Allin. Don't give me this wannabe reverse psychology heel bullshit. The only reason the Young Bucks are still relevant is because they swing from Kenny Omega's nutsack. Facts. We then had Mystico, formerly known as Sin Cara, of course, versus Matt Sydal. This was a fun match. This was a fast-paced match. There was a lot of lucha action here. However, it was too predictable. Much like I spoke about Mia Yim in the Smackdown segment. Tell me the last time Matt Sydal won a match. Go ahead, I'll wait. Mystico gets the victory here, allowing former Sin Cara get some momentum in the CMLL versus AEW feud that seems to be going on. And if I'm being honest, if I was CMLL, I would be done with this agreement by now, because AEW is definitely making their talent look better than the CMLL talent. In all the matches that they've had combined over these last couple weeks, CMLL has only won 2. The 4-on-4 match that had Daddy Magic, Angelo Parker, Christopher Daniels, and Matt Sydal on the AEW team, and then this match. The matches that have had the BCC involved, the one that was one-on-one against Bryan Danielson, all been lost. But when the AEW jobbers go out there, we can actually give the CMLL guys a victory. Horseshit. Horseshit. I wish. And agreed. We then had Brian Cage and Prince Nana interview and issue an open challenge to any 2 men for a match on Collision. The whole thing here is that Hook beat up 2 men by himself, and Brian Cage feels that he can do the same thing. Main event for Rampage was Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander versus the Outcasts, Ruby Soho and Saraya. Willow and Stat dominated here. They defeated the Outcasts. Ruby turned on Saraya and left her high and dry. Will Ruby find her way back to Cool Hand Angelo Parker? Don't know. We'll see. But the fact that Willow and Stat got the victory here made me very happy. It is sad to see the Outcast thing come to its end, but it kind of had a short-term life anyway. At the end of the day, they were all WWE rejects, Outcasts. Toni Storm is doing great things as the champion, although she will more than likely lose the title at Revolution. And it was time for Saraya and Ruby to go their own ways. Agreed. And Danielson isn't even putting people over. He's winning every match. I know that there's some instances where you can put people over and still be the victor of the match, but you gotta work things a little bit better, in my opinion. That is going to take care of the Rampage portion of things. We're going to take another commercial break, show you what you can find later on today on Statboy's Sports Bar, and then we'll come back with Collision. Stay tuned.
And now, preview time. So let's take a look at what's coming your way.
You ever wanted to come into a sports bar where the barkeeps know their game? Well, the Jeff Beecham Network Multiverse of Media has got a production just for you. Sit down and relax as the Stat Boy and his partner break down the statistics in all things sports. Whether it's football, basketball, motorsports, baseball, hockey, soccer, professional wrestling, mixed martial arts, boxing, and much, much more. All are welcome. Your barkeeps here keep you up to date and in the know of everything going on in sports, while also having a pleasant conversation about it all. Your host and owner of the bar, Stat Boy Mike. His partner in crime, Dory Lou. And a host of other guests coming in. The food's hot, the seats are warm, the drinks are ice cold, and the sports talk is plentiful. Cassidy 18 Studios presents Stat Boy Sports Bar. Take a bar stool and enjoy the show.
And we are back. About to get into the coverage from Collision. And if I'm being 100%, the word of the day for Collision is predictable. All the matches were great matches for the most part, but every single one of them was predictable. Kicked off the show with Claudio Castagnoli and John Moxley versus Star Jr. and Esfinge. Think I pronounced that right. I apologize if I didn't. Good match here, but to nobody's surprise, Claudio and Mox get the victory over the CMLL Superstars. Post-match, Mox gets on the mic and invites any tag team to step up, and FTR comes forward and a brawl ensues between the four men. As you may be aware, FTR aren't even ranked in the tag team rankings right now. They've been doing a lot of trio stuff with Daniel Garcia. They're ranked on the trio side of things in the AEW rankings. So they're not even ranked in the tag division. Hopefully this will lead to a match at Revolution, FTR versus Claudio and Mox. Victory there could be huge in getting them on the rankings for the tag division. We'll have to see what happens going forward. We then had Daniel Garcia versus Shane Taylor. This one could have gone either way, but again, when was the last time you seen Shane Taylor on AEW television, not Ring of Honor television? It's been a minute, so you're going to put over the standard AEW guy. Plus, Daniel Garcia's been on a hot streak as of late with his matches with FTR, getting the victory in a lot of the cases. FTR doesn't need the pinfalls, so Garcia getting the pinfall here is helping to elevate him. Daniel Garcia gets the victory over Shane Taylor. Again, it was solid, but predictable. We then had an Eddie Kingston promo, and he issues a challenge to Bryan Danielson for Revolution. And this is about respect. He says he is going to make Bryan Danielson shake his hand and show him a level of respect. I'm not Eddie's biggest fan. I think that's more than documented here across the multiverse of media. I am a huge Bryan Danielson fan. I think that is also documented here across the multiverse of media. But I'm curious to see what happens here as far as the match goes, because I do feel to a certain extent someone that has had as long-standing of a rivalry as Danielson and Kingston, they deserve to have a little bit of respect amongst each other. We then had Brian Cage versus the Outrunners in a 2-on-1 handicap match. This was a squash match here. You know how I feel about squash matches. Post-match, Chance, the mascot for the Las Vegas Golden Knights, comes out and is doing the Prince Nana dance with Nana. Brian Cage attacks him from behind, which brings Hook out for the save. This was really funny. I made sure I used the graphic in my display today. Just seeing Chance and Nana do the whole thing, hilarity. Find the clip. I know it's on the AEW Twitter accounts. If you haven't seen it, check it out. We then have an Undisputed Kingdom Tomohiro Ishii promo backstage. This was very cool. This was very intense. I'm a big fan of the Stone Pitbull. I'm also a big fan of Roderick Strong. The rest of the kingdom, Mike Bennett, Matt Taven, I could take or leave. But I am looking forward to this match. We then had Adam Copeland and Tony Schiavone in the ring. And Adam Copeland sends a message to Nick and Matt Jackson for what they did to Steen and Darby Allin. He says that he wants to challenge Eddie Kingston for all of his titles, and the challenge is coming. But he's leaning towards challenging Christian Cage for the TNT title again at Revolution. Schiavone points out that he's ranked third in the singles division behind Swerve and Hangman, and since both of them are going after Joe at Revolution, that frees all the other champions up for whoever Adam Copeland wanted. And Copeland points out that, the international title is kind of spoken for, as it's going to be Roddy versus Cassidy. This is where he addresses Kingston and all his titles, but he feels like he really needs to go after Christian Cage. Daniel Garcia comes out at this point, and he feels like he deserves a shot at Christian after defeating the Patriarchy last week with FTR. And Copeland kind of feels him on that, and he sees where he's coming from. And so a challenge is made for Dynamite. Daniel Garcia versus Adam Copeland. Winner gets to get the shot at Christian Cage. Now, if you don't see what's going to happen here, I think even Stevie Wonder can see that Adam Copeland is going to beat Daniel Garcia. It's going to be a hell of a match, but we need to get back to Copeland and Christian. We then had a backstage segment with Stokely Hathaway and Chris Statlander and Willow Nightingale. addressing Julia Hart and Sky Blue, setting up a little women's tag team action there, probably at Revolution. You know how Tony Khan does his cards, usually like 12 to 14 matches. We then had a hard-hitting, intense smash mouth match between Brody King and Mark Briscoe. House of Black got the victory there for Brody King. Post-match, Julia Hart stabs Briscoe with a steel spike, drawing a lot of blood. We then had Deonna Purrazzo versus Kiera Hogan. Again, another fantastic match, especially watching the women get down, but predictable. Deonna Purrazzo is not going to lose going into her title chance against Toni Storm at Revolution. Deonna gets the Venus de Milo for the victory. Post-match, Timeless Toni and her entourage hit the ring as Toni's match is up next. And Timeless Toni is taking on Queen Aminata. And at this point, I began to sense the trend here. You know, great matches, but you know who's going to win them. Timeless Toni gets the victory and then cuts a promo saying that a new film will drop on Dynamite, or however she said it, for Dynamite. Main event was Orange Cassidy versus Tomohiro Ishii. By and far, this was the match of the night for Collision, and the only one that really could have gone either way. I mean, Tomohiro Ishii, the Stone Pitbull, could have very easily defeated Orange Cassidy. Nobody would have been upset. Everybody would have believed it. But with the upcoming impending match against Roderick Strong at Revolution, Cassidy gets the hard-fought victory. Post-match, the Undisputed Kingdom hit the ring and proceed to continue softening Orange Cassidy up. I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up being a swerve. And after all these beatdowns, Cassidy still manages to pull it out. That would definitely be some Tony Khan booking. And then they could run it back at something like Big Business and maybe pop the Dynamite rating. But all signs point to Cassidy losing his title at Revolution. That takes care of Collision. What did you guys think of Collision? Let me know in the comments. Again, I'll give Collision an 8 out of 10 because the matches were freaking solid. Just all of them were predictable. Every single one of them. We're going to run the Raw opening now. And come back, we're going to take a look at what happened last night on Monday Night Raw. Stay tuned.
Talk about.
And we are back, getting ready for Raw. I am going to go ahead and address Emmanuel's point here. even though it was not super chatted, as he is a longtime member of the members only section of the Casa D18 Studios channel. I do agree it's kind of hard to not be so predictable in 2024. Need to find a way to elevate people the way Akira Tozawa defeated Ivar in a random match, which wasn't predictable, but there's been no push since then. You know, I feel like some of these, especially when it comes down to the chamber matches, you could have put, we'll say, Mia Yim versus Zoe Stark, or Mia Yim versus Shotzi Blackheart, because I know she's going to be coming up on SmackDown in a qualifying match. And let those two go at it for a spot in the chamber, and that's going to be unpredictable. And yes, maybe by doing that, somebody like a Liv Morgan ends up going into the last chance battle royal, and she can win it that way, where battle royals are a little bit more unpredictable. But it's just, they need to do something to make it a little bit more random. We've gotten a long way away from the old school motto of WWF, where anything can happen in the WWF. Anything can't happen anymore. We already kind of know what's going to happen. But it just, some things need to drastically change on all fronts. I agree with you there, Emmanuel. So Raw kicked off with the New Day and Jey Uso versus all three members of Imperium. This was just a fire opening contest, went for almost 30 minutes, took 2 commercials during it. Imperium took the L here, and of course it was Giovanni Vinci that took the pin at the hands of Jey Uso. Not a huge surprise that Vinci took the fall here. Vinci seems to be the fall guy for most of the Imperium matches. Plus, you don't want the New Day to lose because they've been on a hot streak lately. You don't want Jey Uso to lose, as he's going into more than likely an intercontinental title match against Gunther at the Chamber. You don't want Gunther to eat an L because he's the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion in history. And you don't want Kaiser to get the victory here because Kaiser is the second in command here when it comes to Imperium. So having it be Vinci take the pinfall was the best way to go to keep everybody else protected. No, he shouldn't have. We then had an Andrade vignette, basically talking about how he had to leave the company to go and find himself before he could return. I thought this was very well done. Great vignette to kind of hype Andrade up. We haven't really seen him since the Rumble. Not really sure if he's going to be face heel, if he's going to be part of any really major storylines going forward. He's on Raw, so he's not going to be in part of the LWO Legado del Fantasma feud, thankfully. But we need a little bit more here from Andrade to see what's going on. Is he going back to the Andrade Cien Almas name, or is he just sticking with Andrade as a one-word name? Give us a little bit more meat here, guys. We then had Bobby Lashley versus Bronson Reed to qualify for the Chamber. And in my opinion, this was a bad call, as Bobby Lashley got the victory here. And I will explain why, because on the surface, it seems very obvious that Lashley should have taken this fall. Lashley is the more over. He's a beast. He's got chamber experience. It goes down to the predictability factor here. Lashley is the predictable victor for this match. And I'm going to tell you why it was a bad move, why Bronson Reed should have won. Bronson Reed's from Australia. Chamber's going to be in Australia. So what you do is you have the final testament, Karrion Kross, Scarlett, AOP, and Paul Ellering cost Lashley the match here. Thereby, Bronson Reed gets the victory. And then you begin the build to a faction war that can then pay off at WrestleMania, where you have Lashley, the Street Profits, and B-Fab versus Kross, AOP, and Scarlett. WrestleMania loves to get as many people on the show as possible. So an 8-person tag match, perfect way to get a lot of bodies on the show and a lot of time to really develop the storyline here. You could have Lashley go after Kross. You could have Tez go after one of the AOP. You could have Dawkins go after the other one. You could have B-Fab versus Scarlett. And all these little things kind of stack and build until we get to WrestleMania. Mikey, why are you trying to do that to me? No, Mikey, that's a bad Mikey. We then had a follow-up interview with Sami Zayn back up in the bleachers, the arena seats. And while he's being interviewed, Shinsuke Nakamura pops up on the Tron with a video promo. And this ends up setting up a match for later in the evening between Sami Zayn and Shinsuke Nakamura, which will actually be our main event. We then have Cody Rhodes come out and cut a promo. And he talks about how his match at WrestleMania, his story potentially being finished, is all thanks to the fans. Seth comes out and offers to be Cody's shield, takes some of the responsibility for Roman being the way that Roman is, talking about, their days in the Shield and how Seth taught Roman everything he knows. Didn't mention the chair shot that ended the Shield, which I was a little bit surprised about. But when Seth offered to be Cody's shield, I was expecting him to put the fist out so that Cody could then put the fist and begin that whole little thing there. I did enjoy also to Stat Boy's point, since he wants to jump the gun and not let me get through my spiel. I did enjoy the way that Seth referenced Maui and doing the whole "what can I say except you're welcome." That was a very nice touch on the feud and on the promo, the way they're building everything here with Rock and Roman. All in all, a fantastic segment, and in my personal opinion, this is where the show started to go downhill. Everything was cool up until this point, and then everything after this just kind of was the drop in the roller coaster, and it just didn't really gain more momentum. There was no more exhilaration to the show. It just kind of fell flat. Case in point, the very next thing we had were Liv Morgan and Zoe Stark promos to set up for their Elimination Chamber qualifying match against each other, which Liv Morgan won. Anyways, I swear, if it ends up being Liv versus Rhea or Becky versus Rhea. I'm going to have to find some way to get a hot tag on commentary because I'm at the point where, and Jeff and Statboy will understand this reference. I'm at the point where I'm about ready to turn my back on that match, just like I did Cena and Batista all those years ago. It's just so many other people that are more deserving than either one of them. We then had the Judgment Day backstage, and Priest once again tries to tell Truth that he is not a part of the Judgment Day and tells him that the beatdowns he suffered weren't initiations or reinitiations or pre-initiations. He is not part of the team. And tonight is going to be an execution of our Truth. This causes Truth to get on the phone and try to call the Miz to come in and help him, but Miz isn't at the arena. He's in LA. So Truth is trying to tell him, man, you need to get on a flight and you need to get here as quick as you can. My match is about to happen. There's no way you can catch a flight from LA to Kentucky and be there like that. We then had JD McDonough versus R-Truth. And finally, JD McDonough gets a victory here, puts away R-Truth. Judgment Day comes in and begins to beat him down afterwards. DIY come out and make the save. We then have Sami Zayn and Cody Rhodes backstage, and both men just showing an insane level of respect for each other, giving each other a embrace. We then had Becky Lynch come out and cut a promo, and she talks about the sacrifices that she's made with, her life and being a mother and having to explain to her daughter why mommy is beat up and bruised and why mommy can't pick her up and hold her. Even at 3 years old, she's had to have these difficult conversations. Tells Rhea to enjoy her last few weeks as champion, which brings Nia Jax out. And Nia Jax goes into this promo. And at first, I'm not going to lie, even though I know she's a heel, even though I knew she was going to swerve us, the delivery of the promo was so well done as she ropes us into this whole thing about how Becky is a fantastic mother and, just I hope I can be half the mom that you are. It's just so good until she gets to the turn portion of it where she says that, but I am going to beat Rhea Ripley at the Chamber, and then I'm going to beat you at WrestleMania. And of course, this brings out Rhea Ripley. All three women begin to brawl. Becky has a glass of lemonade going back to her thing last year and her beef about her and Trish getting pulled and making lemonade out of lemons. And there's a huge splash spot in the corner where she ends up spilling her lemonade. Just hilarious stuff. We then had a Drew McIntyre promo. And I honestly don't remember a whole lot about what was said in this one. If I'm being honest, like I said, I was beginning to tune out of Raw because the interest was just on the decline at this point. We then had R-Truth and DIY backstage, and Truth mistakes DIY for DX. Mistakes Gargano for Shawn Michaels and Ciampa for Triple H. He asks how Road Dogg is doing, which is a funny little bit if you know old school R-Truth during his first WWE run when he was K-Quick along with the Road Dogg. Nice little callback there that I don't know how many people picked up on. But just a fun segment with these three, basically thanking them for coming out and having his back during the Judgment Day beatdown. We had LA Knight versus Ivar to qualify for the Chamber. No surprise here. LA Knight hits the blunt force trauma, gets the victory. Our final segment was Sammy and Drew backstage. Sammy is on his way to the ring. Drew's kind of in his way. And Sammy, basically has to puff his chest out a little bit and stand up to Drew. And Drew's trying to run his mouth. And Sammy's just like, "You're in my way." Main event was Sami Zayn versus Shinsuke Nakamura. Not a huge surprise here. Good match. Hard-fought match. Sami Zayn, the underdog that he always is, really brought it. But Nakamura gets the victory. Drew comes out post-match. Cody comes out post-match. Big stuff going on here. Maybe we'll get some kind of tag action on an upcoming Raw. Or maybe even at the Chamber, because I don't think any of these four men are booked at the Chamber yet. Maybe we'll get Cody and Sammy versus Drew and Shinsuke. Should be some interesting stuff developing there. What did you guys think of Raw? If I'm being honest, I'm giving Raw like a 6.5 out of 10. Everything up until the Liv Morgan match against Zoe Stark was fine. And everything from the Liv Morgan match on was just kind of yawn for me. So I enjoyed roughly about half the show. So I'm giving it a little over half of a grade. Not really good when we're on the road to WrestleMania to be ranking a Raw that low. Again, what did you guys think? Let me know. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Going to take our final commercial, show you guys all the upcoming watch-alongs that are going to be coming up across the multiverse of media. When we come back, we're going to get into our shills, and we will get out of here. Stay tuned.
And now, preview time. So let's take a look at what's coming your way.
And we are back. I see Safet pretty much agrees with me as far as the rating goes. So let us get into the shills here. First and foremost, if you guys did not tune in on Super Bowl Sunday and see the coverage provided by Statboy and Dory Lou, you guys missed out on a hell of a show. I would like to take this opportunity to commend both Statboy Mike and Statgirl Dory Lou for the job that they did. Jeff and I were happy from the ratings. We were happy from the love shown via super chats. And we have decided that it will be a recurring thing, that we will go forward doing major events, NBA Finals, Stanley Cup Finals, World Series, Indy 500 possibly, Wimbledon possibly. We're still fine-tuning what events we will do, but we will continue to provide professional sports watch-alongs for major shows. Make sure you guys tune in later on today, 3 o'clock Pacific, 6 o'clock Eastern, as Statboy opens the door for the sports bar. They have a complete Super Bowl recap, what you did see, what you didn't see, celebrities that were there, final stats, as well as all the other sports highlights and recaps for the week. Lots of good stuff coming up. Hey, I don't doubt that, Emmanuel. And speaking of Taylor Swift, since the Kansas City Chiefs were victorious, we here across the multiverse of media on open mic night this week will be doing Taylor Swift karaoke. That's right. You guys know the deal. $5 will get you a spin of the name wheel and will determine who sings. And then we'll spin the other wheel and determine what they will sing. $15 super chat. You pick who you want to sing. We'll spin the wheel and the singer will get to pick what they want to sing. Or for $25, you call your shot and you pick who you want to sing and what they want to sing. But Taylor Swift karaoke this Saturday as we celebrate the Chiefs' victory of Super Bowl 58. In addition to all of that, the Greg Cherry Show tomorrow, 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern. I'm sure they will be discussing the Super Bowl as well as they always do. Greg Cherry, Maddie Laws, hopefully Jeff Meacham will be there. Make sure if you missed it on Friday, you go back to the archives and check out the top 10 Beatles songs according to Jeff Meacham, myself, and my little old man, my father, Jerry Williams, as we all celebrated the 60th anniversary of the Beatles' inaugural performance on The Ed Sullivan Show. So much good stuff there. You guys saw it in the trailer there. The next professional wrestling sports entertainment watch along will be TNA No Surrender, Friday, February 23rd, as Noah Foster and Dattila call the action for that one. And then the next day, Elimination Chamber, as myself and Noah Foster call the action on that one. They pointed out the times, a couple of different times yesterday on Raw, 5 a.m. Eastern Time, 2 a.m. Pacific Time. We will not be doing it at those times. We will be doing it at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. Reason being is primarily because of where I live. I have my girlfriend asleep in one room. I got the kids sleeping in the other room. And 2 o'clock in the morning is just too damned early to be doing a live stream, be getting excited, be getting loud, calling the action. Just not a good call. So we're going to make it 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. It will have already occurred. The results will already be done, but we'll be treating it as if it was a live event. So that just about wraps things up here on today's episode of For the Love of Wrestling. Make sure you guys tune in tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel as I cover NXT, NWA Power, and Explosion for TNA. TNA Explosion is available now on YouTube if you guys would like to watch it for free. NWA Power should be up right now on the CW app if you guys would like to watch it for free so that you guys have seen it and will know what I'm going to be talking about. Of course, NXT tonight, 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern. So make sure you guys tune in for all that tomorrow. And until then, thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys then.
The Jeff Meacham Network's Multiverse of Media. For over 15 years, the recognized symbol of excellence and the standard bearer in coverage of sports and entertainment.
Thank you, JJ. Appreciate you.